left keeps society in line with a lot of intellectual intimidation and verbal abuse, and among their favourite terms, racist and misogynist. I will not use the term racist or racism in debate. It's such a meaningless term. I will talk with anyone, anywhere, anytime about racial hatred, but not give the left this free pass to just throw around these terms any way they see fit. I mean, do people really hate other people for the colour of their skin? I mean, like, why would you do that? And I won't use the term racist or racism in debate because it's just a free kick for leftists. I will only talk in matters of substance about racial hatred, because that's what they really mean when they throw that term of abuse out. And 9 times out of 10, they're verbally abusing somebody who is not guilty of the crimes as stated. But the word racist in leftist parlance, it means you hate people of other races. But what they call racism is something that bears closer analysis for some reason or other. And to declare right from the start that you're only going to talk about actual racial hatred is going to sort of totally confuse them, because then they're going to be forced to actually articulate what it is they're actually saying. In the case of somebody like me, I don't hate people of other races. Like, why would I? You know, I might have negative views of different racial groups related to their corporate qualities, abilities and characteristics, but it's not actually just raw hatred as a leftist would put it across. I mean, that's just giving them free rein, carte blanche to go off on their sort of ideological kick. So to talk about racial hatred is really going to throw them for a loop, because they're going to have to flesh out what kind of hatred do you have, and it's all just illusory. And racism, so-called, is probably their favourite hobby horse, because white people are always up here and black people are always down there, and to them that can signify nothing but consciously perpetrated oppression. So it's just a cause that helps sort of further their ideological crusade, which is really just a thing of personal self-expression, just a convenient cause, a convenient victim group, so that they can bang on about their own ideological purity. Racism as such is basically just a pious myth. Obviously, in times of warfare and so on, yeah, you might get racial groups really at each other's throat. In World War II, you might get people hating the Japanese, but these are for reasons of have some sort of substance to them. It isn't just irrational hatred of the way a person looks or the colour of their skin. Black people in America are hated not for the colour of their skin. It's more a case of being looked down upon because they're a social underclass. But according to leftists, the charge of racism is basically along the lines of concentration camps and getting out the Zyklon B and that sort of thing, and as such completely distorts and misrepresents the situation. Of course, most idiotically, the left throws around this term misogynist. Where does it come from? Whoever used this word? Where does this word start appearing in Western culture? The word misogynist is a Greek word which means literally hatred of women. I was in a discussion one time with a woman who informed me that the Apostle Paul hated women. I didn't say anything at the time, but looking back on it, I think I should have pulled her up on this and said, what exactly do you mean that Paul hates women? I mean, what does that mean? What is he walking down the street? If he sees a woman, does he cross to the other side? You know, is there something intrinsic about women that he hates? Was it the way they look, the shape of their body? I mean, how exactly does this hatred thing work? And of course, you know, people just assume the meaning behind these terms, that they just give the left complete carte blanche to go on its merry way with this sort of terminology. How does Paul hate women? How does anybody hate women? What is it about a woman you would, hate? Oh, look at that rock over there. Oh, I hate rocks. Clouds. I hate clouds. Trees. I can't stand trees. It's nonsense. And then they talk about men who beat up women or beat up their wives. And this just gets passed off as hatred of women. Well, a man who beats up a woman hates that particular woman. Well, his wife. It doesn't mean he's got some sort of internalized hatred of all women. I mean, this is just a myth. I mean, a man who is given to beating up women is somebody given to beating up people. I mean, women are a convenient victim group because they're almost always weaker and smaller than men. Again, what does it mean to say that a man hates women? Feminist ideas of misogyny that it can mean, for example, contempt for women. No, it's hatred. It comes from the Greek word misos, gyneka, hatred of women. I'm not going to play this game of it's constructive hatred. No, I'm talking about hatred. They use the word hatred. Let's talk about hatred. That is the emotive force behind the use of this terminology for misogynist and racist and all the other words they employ as a way of beating people over the head with their terminology. So no, I'm not going to categorise jokes about women as hatred. They're talking about hatred. We'll talk about hatred. Because as soon as you talk about hatred, it forces leftists to actually try to give some sort of substance to what they're actually saying, instead of hiding behind this wonderful word constructively this or constructively that. Oh, that hides a multitude of sins, doesn't it? And a man who mistreats a woman necessarily is lumbered with this accusation that he and other men just hate all women. And hence the feminist critique of Donald Trump for his locker room comments about women, that this shows that he hates women. Well, I rather think Donald Trump likes women, maybe too much. And they bang on about men making disparaging comments about women. Hey, here's a telegram. Women make disparaging comments about men. I don't hear too much about misandry, whatever you'd call it. And guess what? Here's another telegram. Women who make disparaging comments about other women. Yeah? Have you ever heard of that? I was engrossed in this thought the other day, pulled up at the gas station, thinking about this subject, and got out of the car and I heard some woman shriek. This bitch was in the driveway and she wouldn't move. Which sort of rammed home the point, wouldn't you say? Forced leftists to really flesh out what it is they're really saying, and they are in trouble. They are in big trouble. And just a final thought. Do you know anybody who actually hates women? I mean, I'm not talking about celebrities and politicians and people who are reputed to be great woman haters out there in popular culture. No, I'm just talking about somebody you know. Do you know somebody who hates a woman? Like, what's their name? Who are they? How does this man hate women? Can you explain how he does that? What it means for him to hate women? Like the expression racism. Basically, this is essentially a myth, a pious myth, that everybody is too frightened to call out, lest they be called a racist and a misogynist. That's all for now.